Welcome to Challenging Silence, a podcast from Women's Health and Women's Hands Community Health Center.
On this show, we are having much needed discussions about topics related to female genital mutilation or cutting with survivors, advocates, and community members. We're your hosts, Tomilola
and Nanti. Challenging Silence is brought to you by the Flourish Project, made possible through funding from Women and Gender Equality Canada.
You can listen to this podcast series on all major podcast listening platforms and our website, flourishaccess.ca.
Please note that this podcast covers topics of a sensitive nature, including domestic abuse and violence. To ensure privacy and safety, some guests have chosen to remain anonymous.
This podcast is age appropriate for 16 plus.
Last episode, we talked about gender-based violence in immigrant communities and how the experience of violence and support for survivors differ for women from these communities. Today, we'll dive deep into one of the harmful traditional practices that continue to occur among African and some Middle Eastern and Asian communities. Female genital mutilation or cutting, FGMC, is the partial or total removal or any other injury to the female external genitalia for no medical reasons. It has no health benefits and it's a violation of human rights. Globally, there are roughly 200 million women and girls alive today who are survivors of this practice, and thousands of them reside here in Canada.
Rhonda joins us today to discuss what FGMC is and its effects on survivors. A very warm welcome to you, Rhonda. Tell our listeners about yourself.
Thank you for inviting me for this session. This is Rhonda. I'm an immigrant woman in Canada here, and a mother of 3 kids. I'm a member of practicing community for FGMC.
All right, thank you for that introduction, Rhonda. I'll start off by asking, as a survivor, how would you define FGMC in your own words? What does this practice mean to you?
Actually, as a survivor of a member of practicing community, I can describe FGMC as a useless practice that only bring harm. The practice has no health benefits, but it harms girls and women in many ways. This practice involves removing and damaging normal female genital tissues. It also disrupts the normal functions of the bodies of girls and women and can lead to a range of physical and mental health problems. Psychological problems like anxiety or low self-esteem or depression. The risk increases with the severity of the operation. Also, I remember that FGMC impacted me immediately after performing this practice. I felt severe pain and shock.
Thank you so much for that response. You did mention that, it has no health benefits and it does eventually cause health issues, whether they're immediate or after, which could range from health related and also mental related. Thank you for highlighting that.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Some girls when they undergo FGMC, immediately they can have severe pain, as you said, shock, uncontrollable bleeding, which could lead to hemorrhaging and even the possibility of death. In the long term, they could experience chronic urinary and vaginal infections, long-term pain and scars and trauma to the vaginal area. It impacts their sexual health, so difficulty having sexual intercourse, especially depending on the type of FGMC. And for the psychological aspects of FGMC, there's depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress. All those things are possible long-term consequences of FGMC on survivors.
Some very valid and great points that you've raised there, Tomilola.
So, as a member of an FGMC practicing community, when was the first time you heard about the practice? Is this something that is usually spoken about within families and communities, or are girls unaware of what cutting is until the day or the moment before it is performed?
For me, the first time I heard about it was that I was 9 years old, but I don't understand what will happen or what it means or why it will happen. After when I'm growing up, I read a book or make a search about that and understand about that after. But if my family members asked me also if I will do it for my daughter or not, but I said no.
Mm-hmm. And do you find that most of the time girls are not aware about FGMC before it occurs?
They doesn't know about it. They doesn't heard about it. Also, with me, when I asked, they didn't say anything at actual position it will happen. Some of them told me she just take a look about something, or you will grow up with this. But all the girls, they didn't heard about before.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. Most girls are cut anytime between birth and 15 years old. So they often don't really have they don't have understanding about FGMC. And depending on their age, some girls don't remember the traumatic experience and it follows them into puberty and adulthood.
Yes.
And I've also, in my research, seen stories of with girls not truly understanding what FGMC, they are told about it vaguely and asked if this is something they want to do because their peers and their sisters and mothers have already undergone this, and without truly understanding what FGMC really means. At times they agree and say yes, only because they're told that this is something that is normal for all the girls in their communities.
Exactly.
So, Randa, if you don't mind sharing, at what age did you experience FGMC? Do you remember the experience and how has it negatively impacted you?
Oh, yes, I can remember very well when I was 9 years old, when the ladies of the family gathering at my grandmother house, and two cousins and I, their age was between 7 and 9. I remember very well the pain, shock, and lack of understanding of what is happening to us and why. And when I asked my mother why this happened to me, she said, "This is the costume of for all the daughters of the family, and this happened to me also." This is my mom said also. When I was in your age, it's happened for me also. So the years passed, and I grow up, and I beginning to learn what is this and understand about this after.
Okay, and post having that, and as you've grown up and life has continued after that, how has this experience affected you? Has it do you, like as an adult, has it affected you maybe as a teenager? All of those experiences, if you don't mind sharing them.
That the process and nothing but custom of the social tradition that have no justification other than that is a way is to raise girls properly and limit their establishing relationships before marriage, ignoring that is impact also burdens marriage. I faced problems with my husband that during sexual relation with my husband. It's impact all my life because I'm right now I'm divorced. After some years we divorced, and there is this is a reason or the main reason for that divorce.
I'm sorry to hear that, Randa. Thank you so much for sharing that and for allowing us to hear this sensitive part of your life. Every survivor's experience is really different, and it's different from the type of FGMC that is performed on them, and the effects are vary and they're different as well. So thank you for sharing your own experiences.
Thank you.
Yes, Rhonda, thank you for sharing your experience. And one of the reasons why FGMC is is practiced in some communities is used as a measure of marriageability or as a means of controlling women's sexuality. But we find with some survivors, the FGMC ends up having such an impact when they do eventually get into relationships, whether during dating or marriage. So thank you for sharing that with us and bringing awareness to that particular negative impact on survivors.
And just I want to say something else from my experience. For my daughter, I'm talked about this situation with her, to be honest, and talked with her about it, with all the real, and I let her to read about it, to search about it, to understand this, to share with her my experience and the harmful from this situation.
Yes, it is very important, and it is good to have these conversations with our younger generation, because that is what is going to facilitate the end of female genital mutilation or cutting. By talking to their mothers and grandmothers about it, learning about the negative consequences, it can lead to a shift in the cultural norms among our communities, with a hope that we'll have a future where FGMC is no longer practiced anywhere around the world.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
Even with the global efforts to end FGMC and widespread awareness about the negative consequences, many communities still continue the practice. I think it's important that we know that the cultural and social factors in which FGMC is performed vary between communities. So for some, it is a rite of passage. For some, it's seen as cleanliness and beauty, maintaining purity and femininity. And for others, it's enhancing fertility and it's viewed as respectable. These are some of the common reasons that some of these communities continue to push as the reason why they're doing it. But some families still continue the practice because of the fear that the community they are in will ostracize them and their daughters if they don't do it. So thank you for sharing, your experiences and why you think that, certain communities continue to do it, even though it has been clear and survivors of FGMC have stated that it has no benefit for them. Instead, it has caused problems for them.
We were able to have an insightful discussion about the experiences of women and girls affected by this harmful practice. Thank you, Rhonda, for sharing your story with us. It is a very, very tough conversation to have. And thank you for sharing your experience and perspective.
Thank you for inviting me to this session.
You can learn more about FGMC by visiting our website, flourishaccess.ca. Next week, we will continue this conversation about the sociocultural reasons communities continue to practice FGMC and debunk common myths about the practice. See you next time.